Joining me now, Joe diGenova, a Trump legal confidant and former federal prosecutor and former independent counsel, and Philippe Reines, a former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to have you all here.
Good evening.
I just want to play this one soundbite from President Trump when he spoke to Fox and Friends last week with regard to the Justice Department.
So I'm very disappointed in my Justice Department. But because of the fact that it's going on, and I think you'll understand this, I have decided that I won't be involved. I may change my mind at some point because what's going on is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
Joe, what did you make of that comment?
Well, I think the president is frustrated, and he should be. I think what's going to happen, Martha, apropos of Comey's comments and Clapper's apparent lying, is that John Huber, who has been appointed to investigate the unmasking and the FISA illegality, will be investigating all of the things that we've just talked about. And in fact, the grand jury subpoenas will issue for Mr. Comey, Mr. Clapper, and Mr. Brennan. But pending that grand jury subpoenas, those subpoenas, I think Mr. Clapper and Mr. Comey and Mr. Brennan should have their security clearances revoked until such time as the grand jury and the Justice Department make determinations about their responsibility. I think their conduct from disclosed information shows that they have violated the standards for maintaining a security clearance, and the current Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, should revoke all of their security clearances pending the grand jury outcome.
Philippe, what do you think about that?
Well, I think a couple of things. First, I agree with Congressman King when he says this is a very dark period of American intelligence, in the sense that in the last 15 months it's become very politicized, and I just don't think that that's good for America. But I want to look at what President Trump just said. He said, my Justice Department. And you know what? That's key. For 15 months now, he has been president. Attorney General Sessions is his appointee. The Deputy Attorney General, the FBI Director, they're all his appointees. So this notion on the one hand that he is being persecuted by them, which is something that Mr. Genova believes and believes is being framed, and on the other hand, he's in charge of the place, just doesn't make sense. If it were Hillary Clinton as president and me as a White House advisor and Chelsea Clinton as Attorney General, I'd understand the notion of like, oh, they can't be fair, they're picking on me. But I don't understand it now.
Joe, what do you say to that?
Well, I think the president's frustration stems from the fact that the appointment of Mr. Mueller was something that, in my opinion, never should have occurred, because when Mr. Rosenstein appointed him, there was no evidence of a crime, and indeed he mentioned no crime in the appointment papers. I do think that what's going to happen now is that the people at the Justice Department are doing their jobs. They've sent it out to Mr. Huber, who has what now will be the single most important investigation of all, because I agree with Philippe that those 15 months have been just awful. And I will tell you this. I think the worst part of American intelligence and law enforcement came on July 5th, 2016, when James Comey usurped the functions of the Attorney General. Yeah. That was the darkest day in American law enforcement in 100 years.
That is what the Inspector General is looking into in terms of that part of the investigation. I do want to ask you both a question about this Nobel Prize, because we talked about the award that CNN was given for putting the dossier into the lexicon the other night. And there's a suggestion by the president of South Korea that President Trump, he said President Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize. The only thing we need is peace. Philippe, what do you think about that? Do you think he should be considered for that?
He could be considered. I don't know what else to say. I do want to say, though, since I'll never get a chance to say it again, that I wholeheartedly agree with Joe diGenova on what he said about Jim Comey's behavior on July 5th, 2016. But on the Nobel, look, I think what's happening with North Korea is important. Let's let it play out. I don't think anyone's doing this for the prize, but you know, I don't have a dog in the fight.
It's certainly jumping the gun. I think anybody would say that, but you know, it certainly reminds people of perhaps when the Nobel Committee jumped the gun in giving one to President Obama.
As long as Jim Comey doesn't get it.
He felt it was too soon, but he said it was given. They gave it to him because he was trying to lower the temperature in terms of nuclear war in the world. And Joe, it looks like the president is making at least some progress.
The president has changed the paradigm and has made great success and momentum right now in North Korea. Let's all keep our fingers crossed. Nothing has been finally accomplished, but I must say, looking at it right now, we are at an amazing spot in the history of the relations between North and South Korea, and it's all because of Trump's aggressive agenda.
Well, it would be pretty hard for the committee not to consider it, since the president of South Korea is the one who is suggesting that they should.
Of course.
That should be interesting to watch. Philly,
Can I put
you,
in a
Joe.
plug?
I gotta go.
I've been to the DMZ. I very much think he'd enjoy it, and that's where it should be.
I think we have agreement on that. We're going to hear from
I
Lindsey Graham in a
concur.
little while.
The president tweeted
He's quite
he's looking for
spectacular
votes.
and an amazing
He's looking
TV
for
event,
votes.
to be sure.
That's
Thank you,
where
guys.
it belongs.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you both.